All right. Beautiful day in downtown Pittsburgh.
I thought we were in Cleveland by the lake.
He got hit in the head too many times. I'm Tantlinger. He is the quarterback, Mike McMahon. Hey, did you enjoy that season 2020? Yeah, you did. You enjoyed it. Well, didn't like how it ended.
The first 11 games.
First 11 games was great. Your quarterback came back after his arm blew up. And you know what? Despite how it ended, that was a pretty good football season. You could be, I don't know, from the Ottawa Rough Riders or somebody like that. Horrible football team. You didn't know that about the Rough Riders.
Yeah, I actually did. It would be the Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
5 points to the man from Rutgers. All right, tough season coming up with free agency and a salary cap. Let's start with this first of all. Because of COVID, this is simple to figure out, team revenues will go down this season. Fans didn't buy hot dogs.
Unless you renegotiate.
You can save the owners a lot of money.
But the owners probably are going to do that.
It's a business. As much as you may live and die by your Pittsburgh. Did you see the Twitter with the guy throwing the chair into this TV and screaming and yelling?
No.
Oh, it's incredible. You know what? Let's take a break because I think this guy right here speaks for foul language warning, foul language warning, foul language warning. This guy speaks for Steelers Nation in the loss to the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, that guy was pretty upset.
That's it.
You know who's really upset? His wife, because now they got to go buy a brand new $5,000 flat screen television. All right, so here is the best way to break down this off season with your Steelers. More than likely, the $198 million they had to spend is going to go down to about $170 million because of the epidemic, because of loss of revenue. With that, now you've got 18, 19 free agents that you got to work with. Start with the number one principle. Number one principle. You may want to keep Bud Dupree. You may want to keep Juju. But if another team offers him more money, the Steelers then have the right to either match it, pay him more, or say thank you for being a Steelers, good luck in Cleveland or Baltimore. It's really that simple. So Mike and I are going to go through the players and the way we see it, who we'd like to keep, who we'd like to get rid of, and go through the list. And, well, you can argue with us, send us a comment here on YouTube or Facebook. And, well, most people think I'm crazy. Why is that?
Because you are.
Thank you. I'm Irish. And I got hit in the head a lot. We didn't know about concussion.
Don't stereotype you.
He's Irish. Yeah, you're Irish too. How come you're not as goofy?
I'm smarter.
Yeah, I'm better looking. All right, let's get this thing going on. Bud Dupree. Well, you know what? Before we even get to that, I want to cut some fat from this Pittsburgh Steelers team, and I want to see what you think about. You are paying $9 million for a player that is playing at C-level football. You're paying $9 million.
You went from free agency to going off on one of your guys right now.
Yeah, well, I said I'm crazy in the head. This is going to save you some money that we can put into free agency. So there was a method to my madness. $9 million for a C player. $9 million, and I know you can't help but injuries. They come and they go. But $9 million for a guy who has not stepped up to the level we thought he could. When you can go and replace him for a free agent that's on the market right now or potentially a rookie, to it, you're out of Pittsburgh if I'm running this team. $9 million for a C-down lineman. Now, a lot of you are screaming out there, he knocked some balls down. He made some tackles this year. As I famously said a couple of weeks ago, that's his job, to knock balls down. Is he as good as Cam Hayward? No. Was he good as Alawalu in the center this year? No. Has he ever reached his potential? No. Goodbye. Go back to Notre Dame. Get an MBA. $9 million. I just put in your salary cap. All right, now we can get to free agency.
Now you're at the $179 million.
Yeah, right. I just got you $9 million. All right, Mike. Bud Dupree. Unbelievable. Joey Porter got out of here. He's got a real coach in Dunbar, and you see him and Mr. Watt flying off the edges for 2 seasons. Unfortunately, his knee snaps this year, that ACL, which may devalue him on the open market. If you can match Bud and keep him here in Pittsburgh, do you do it to keep this defense? Because, again, I believe this is from shame to glory next year, and we're on another Super Bowl run. This is not a rebuilding year. It's a Super Bowl run if they do the right things. Go for it.
This is the hardest decision to me, one of the hardest decisions to make for the Steelers, because you should have paid him last year, okay? But, they franchised him. It's a business. And unfortunately for Bud, they had the argument of the outside linebacker or the DN, and he should have been franchised as the DN, and, because he really is, because he's a rush guy. But, I think he gets franchised at outside linebacker. He plays, and that's the dirty business, and it stinks as a player. And then he gets hurt. You have to try and remove the emotion. You can't sit there and say, well, he really did things for us. I like him, and to me, he was probably more of the MVP than TJ. Look, TJ Watt is TJ Watt. Everyone loves him. But I actually think TJ Watt was who he was because of Bud Dupree. His numbers dropped off significantly since Bud got hurt. If Bud Dupree's, it depends on his knee. Now, the structure of that knee. How bad did he mess that knee up? Bud knows it, the doctor knows it, and the Steelers know it.
And his agent knows it.
The other teams do not know it. And so there could be a situation where if he jammed up it pretty bad, obviously it's an ACL, but the cartilage, did he take all the cartilage out? Is there how much cartilage left in there? I've had my ACL, I had the MCL, meniscus, all that stuff done. And the ACL is repaired, it feels great. MCL feels fine. It's the cartilage. Now, I've had meniscus tears here and there throughout my career, and heck, in Philly, I had it done on the bye week and ended up coming in playing 10 days later. But once that goes down, when I did the last time with the ACL, there was a chunk of the cartilage missing, and I have a little bit of bone-on-bone grinding. Now, when it hits a certain spot, when I'm straight, I'm good. When I'm already in deep knee bend, I'm good. But there's a certain area, it got a little shock, a little jolt, and I can't get the strength back. And I'm old, okay? But Bud Dupree, how serious was the structural damage in there? And how's his rehab coming along? Look, Adrian Peterson came back and he was fine. He was playing 6 months later. He's a freak. Everyone's different. Everyone heals
Rod
differently.
Woodson played in the Super Bowl.
Everyone's different. The Steelers know. And if the Steelers truly believe he's going to be back to the old Bud Dupree, back to 100%, the Steelers need to pay him and keep him. If they know something that you and I don't, and other teams don't, and they say, well, his knee's a little iffy, they can't go out and pay him because some other team will, and then you're not going to match that. You're going to hurt your team by matching that, okay? And you're probably going to hurt the other team by actually giving him. So the Steelers know how much structural damage is in there because the Steelers doctor probably did it, and the Steelers know everything inside and out of the medical history there. So that's what's going to happen. If you truly believe, if the Steelers truly believe Bud Dupree is going to be back at the same level next year as he was this past year, then they need to pay him, and they got to keep Bud Dupree because that's going to help not only TJ Watt, but it's going to help the entire D-line. Cam Hayward, it's going to help Devin Bush when he gets back.
Oh, can't wait. One thing to consider, Mr. Hightower, he stepped in. The rookie did a decent job, a better than average job. That will be factored into the variable too. So we're going to find out about Bud Dupree. You know what? This guy has a lot of respect from everybody, especially in Pittsburgh, especially from veterans. Alejandro Villanueva, Ranger, Alejandro Villanueva. Man, he's had a great career, an improbable NFL career. Mike Tomlin looking over on the Philadelphia Eagles sideline and seeing him standing there and go, who's that mountain of a man? A little bit off in his pass blocking this year. I do not know if the Pittsburgh Steelers bring back the Ranger because of his price tag at close to $6 million. Is Al willing to renegotiate? He might be.
Yeah, and he's going to have to renegotiate. He struggled this year a little bit, and that left tackle is the most important position on the offensive line when you have a right-handed quarterback. If you're a left-handed quarterback, if you got Tua down in Miami, you need to have a solid right tackle. That's that blindside tackle, and he can get back to that top level, but he's not worth the money right now. And obviously, he's he is my favorite player in the Steelers just for what he's done for the country and his service, and I have a lot of respect for him. I think he should be back as a Steeler. I think he should renegotiate, and I think he could be a solid O-line still. It's just a little bit of coaching. You get a new O-line coach in here and coach him up, a little hard work in the offseason, and he can be back. But again, depends on the price.
$6 million's a big price tag. We'll see what happens with the captain. All right. 2 of the defensive players this year that really helped to solidify this secondary. Cam Sutton. You know, he made $800,000 this year. Somebody's going to offer him in a neighborhood of about $2 million, I think, Mike. I don't know if you pay Cam Sutton $2 million. I would.
Again, this is going to go into something that, you know, you look at the Steelers scouting department, the Kevin Colbert, and you know, not only do they have a college scouting department, they have a pro scouting department. They will do a self-scout. They will talk to the coaches. The coaches on the Pittsburgh Steelers and the scouts on the Pittsburgh Steelers know what these guys are capable of and what these guys are worth. And Colbert's done a great job of bringing in new talent and keeping old talent, and he knows whether that guy's reached his max potential or if not. So I would trust a lot of these guys are going to have to, you know, have some difficult talks, and you know, and the Steelers might be able to find out someone in the draft that they can go out, or free agency, find someone a little cheaper, a little better value. But they have a pretty good understanding of what these guys are capable of and what they're worth, and they'll have those talks with various players. But there's a few guys that they need to really make the tough decisions on.
Free agency is a whole different matter, but understand something. Your Steelers cap from 198 down to about 170 million. Other teams are going to be faced with hard decisions too, which is going to factor into this big chess game Kevin Colbert's playing. All right, I'm going to say it. If this cat doesn't step up in the last couple games and single-handedly take over the defense like he did, the Steelers don't have some of the victories they did. What a season. $3.2 million he got paid this year. He earned every cent of it. Mike Hilton. I mean, this guy made some tackles, made some ball knocks. He just was all over the place, man. I thought he was a linebacker a couple times, the way he was jacking running backs off. Mike Hilton played a great season, and I mean, he's almost up there. You know, in an alternate universe, you'd say, you know what, that's our defensive player of the year for the Steelers this year.
Yeah, he had a good year. You know, he's a tough player, and he plays Steeler football. So, you know, again, this is some tough decisions. The scouting department, the coaching staff, they're going to make, hey, we're going to pay this guy a little bit more, we're going to give this guy a little bit less. They're going to have those talks, and obviously the players' agents are going to try and do the best they can to try and get the most they can value for their player. It's just, again, how many guys are where they're at in their career? Do they want to move? Do they want to stay? Or is their family settled in where they're at? There's a lot of conversations that need to be going around, and those will play a part into it. But again, the Steelers need to figure out who they want to keep mostly, and then they can move on. But the big thing here is Ben. You know, what's he going to do? They'd have to get Ben to renegotiate, because if they cut him or he retires, it's still $22 million. Didn't they do that with someone else?
Yeah, unfortunately, and it didn't end too well, did it?
Yeah, and so the Steelers are in a tough predicament, and so they really need Ben to come in and renegotiate, or if he doesn't want to, they're going to have to cut him.
Right, you're talking a lot of money. Look, at the very most, you pay Ben Roethlisberger $41 million, just a hard check to hand to him next year. As Mike's saying, you could potentially renegotiate Ben's deal. Of that $41 million, about $19 million can be parsed out if he signs a new contract, a 4-year deal.
And it'll be spread over the 4 years, around about $5 million a year on the hit on the cap.
So you're still paying you're still paying him $21 million.
But it's spread out over years.
Right.
And so the key is, though, you're not going to pay him. You don't want that $40 million cap hit. He's not worth it. And he's a great quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he's not worth the $41 million. So he needs to renegotiate to help the Steelers. And if he's going to refuse to do that, well then,
do you think we can make a deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars and give them every single one of our draft picks next year, and they'll send us Trevor Lawrence? Any chance that could happen? They can actually have Steely, McBeam, and all our draft picks. I want Trevor Lawrence at bad.
Well, it depends. If Ben wants to come back and he's willing to renegotiate, you got to go do that, and then you got to try and find a young guy in the draft or via free agency and try and bring in and develop behind him.
So watch out, Steelers,
If
Big Beam.
he does not do that, you can go out and you can find someone in free agency that are good. Marcus Mariota had a solid year with the Raiders this past year, stepped up for Derek Carr when he was out. Will you be able to steal him? There's some other guys out there that you could probably steal and bring in and for a decent price. But again, it just depends. You got to have those talks with Ben, and the sooner you have them, the better off you are.
All right, let's talk about meat. Some defensive, offensive linemen. Tyson Alawala Lulu gets moved over to the nose guard position. Has an incredible season this year. Problem with Tyson is he's 34 years old, made $2.8 million this year. Had a great season. By all accounts, he loves it here in Pittsburgh. I have no idea what's going to happen with him. That's one of those flip up in the air coins at $2.8 million. I don't know who's going to match that or pay him more money. So keep a lookout. I'd love to have him back on the defensive line. You know, Zach Banner put a lot of time, Mike, into losing weight, getting in shape. 2 years ago when we were at camp, we saw him get carted off the field twice just for simple heat exhaustion and being out of shapeism, if that's a word, and it was a sickening thing. He comes into last season in shape, ready to compete for that right tackle position. Boom, injury, done for the year. When you look at Zach Banner, the mountain of the man, 6'8", he got $1.7 million. I think the Steelers have to pay him, Mike, to keep him here. I like what he's becoming. I like his attitude. He's a fan favorite. You know, when you look at it, you say, okay, we were paying Alejandro Villanueva $6 million. Okay, and again, when I said about Tuitt, goodbye, that's $9 million. Tuitt gives you some money to play with. Between Alejandro and Tuitt money, you now theoretically, when you move these chess pieces, have money to pay somebody like a Zach Banner. You'd like him blocking for you when you were playing. He's about that big.
Again, these are all tough decisions that the Steelers are going to have to look into this, and they're going to have to see who else is out there. Who can they get for different prices? There might be someone via free agency they can find a little cheaper that might not have to get carted off to heat exhaustion. And you said he came in this year. You said he came in
good
in shape and then he ended up getting hurt. Well, there was no training camp this year.
Yeah,
so,
he did get hurt in camp.
It was limited, but
no, not in camp. He got hurt early on in the season.
Yeah, so. But there's limited camp. So, did he get hurt because he wasn't prepared? Maybe he was having a solid year, and so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and there's tough, difficult decisions. That's why you've got Kevin Colbert to make those decisions.
Thank God. When this kid came in the league, nobody knew who he was. He come out of USC. He was pretty good caliber player, but we didn't know what he was going to turn into. What a 1-2 punch Juju and AB were together. AB, of course, being AB, is a great wide receiver, that number one. Juju was a great second wide receiver. His hands, his speed, the way he conducts himself off the field, giving money to kids and buying Christmas presents. He's a great kid. Got a little nutty in the head. Went a little AB this year.
Well, no.
What do you do? Remember The Sound of Music? What do you do with a problem like Maria? Now you got Juju.
Yeah, and
$1 million. You can afford that.
He means well. But someone's going to come in and offer him more.
How much more, Mike? Take a guess.
I mean, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. I think I've seen it.
Let's say the Cleveland Clowns come calling to Juju and say, you know what? We think we got a Super Bowl team here, and we're going to give you $4.5 million. Yeah. Will the Steelers match 4.5?
They should not, because they've got Deontay Johnson, they've got Claypool, and they've got James Washington, who stepped up. And I was against James Washington for a while. And to me, I think he's kind of stepped up and he's made some big plays for them. And, he had the case of the drops 2 years ago in those camps, but he's been doing a better job. As far as Juju, when he was here as a number 2 with AB, he was great. And now he's going to be a number 2 or a number 3 with Claypool and Deontay Johnson, which is even better for the Steelers if he takes that money. If someone comes in and wants to pay him as a number 1, the Steelers have to let him go. He wasn't a number 1. I've said it the year AB helped him out, brought that coverage. He's a big body receiver. He's a slot guy. He's a go over the middle of the field guy. He's got strong hands. He can take the hits, but he cannot run the routes and separate the way Claypool and Deontay Johnson can. He just can't do it. And he's not a number. Look, the Atlanta Falcons are looking to deal Julio Jones right now.
Right.
And Julio Jones, watching, he's a beast, but he's not the same Julio Jones. He had struggled with some hamstrings this year. He lost a step a little bit.
And this is only his year in the league.
And but Juju's young, okay?
Yeah.
But he's not gonna go to. As a receiver, you can't all of a sudden just get faster. You can't. He's not going to lose a bunch of weight. You know, when you're at that age, you've kind of reached your top speed. You look at Tyreek Hill; those guys, you kind of come into the league with that speed. You're not gaining that speed anywhere else. Obviously, you can kind of mature and learn the intricacies of running routes and in becoming a top receiver. Antonio Brown was one of those ones. Deontay Johnson's becoming one of those guys.
Yeah.
But I think everyone knows Juju's not that speedster. He's not that going to pull away from someone. He's not going to that perfect route runner. So you're not going to pay him as a number one or even a number two anymore. I mean, he's a mid-tier number two to me because he's going to go over the middle and he's going to make those catches. But now with Claypool and Deontay Johnson, he's the number three of the Steelers, and you have to look at it. We're going to pay him like a number three. If someone wants to come in and give him that top tier money, let him take it and let him take the problems with him because he needs to mature. He does some great things off the field for charities. He does some great things on the field. He does some dirty work. But the dancing in the locker rooms, the dancing on the midfield logo, the talking trash to teams, that's a maturity issue, and he needs to stop it quick. And Coach Tomlin, if they do keep him, he needs to pull him off to the side and tell him the truth.
Look, we all know you fall in love with your players. I still love and adore, Mike Webster and Jack Lambert, man, and Rocky. You fall in love with these teams. You're emotionally invested, time and money. You buy your towels, you buy the jerseys, you watch the games religiously every Sunday, and you emotionally buy into this team. But when it comes down to pragmatics, it is a business at the bottom of the day, and you have to say to yourself, all right, Juju is now going to command some big money from somebody who's going to give it to him, or are we willing to pay that? So we're going to find out.
I could see the Jets trying to come in and pay him. They need some receivers, and I could see him going to a situation like that where it's a bigger market, and he's one of those younger players right now that's all about promoting their brand on social media, the TikToks, the Instagram, and
how about you promote the black and gold first?
And he, I'll tell you, he does a great job off the field with charities as well, and teams love him. He is probably, number two or number three as far as jerseys you see around in Heinz Field. Who's number one?
I am.
No, it's not.
Nah.
Troy Polamalu still is.
Amen.
Everyone
Amen.
loves him, and so
arguably the greatest defensive player of all time behind Lawrence Taylor. That's a topic for another day.
Behind Lawrence Taylor.
Behind LT, that's how much I think.
Don't mess with it. I know LT.
You played golf with LT.
Don't mess with my LT.
He beat LT in golf.
Don't mess with my LT.
Yeah, everybody loves LT. He's about that big. All right. Talking about emotional favorites. In fact, I thought this kid should have won the Heisman Trophy based upon going to Heisman. And look what it's about. It's about content of character. It's about perseverance. That's James Conner. We love him. Talking about emotional attachments to players. We all know his story with cancer. We all know his story with injuries for the last couple years. The kid runs hard. That's why he gets hurt. The thing is, though, Mike, your Pittsburgh Steelers have been playing him league minimum for the last several years. This is really interesting to see what other teams, not your Steelers, but what other teams think of James Conner. First of all, I'm going to say this about his running style and running ability. He's the best running back you have here in Pittsburgh right now. He's a big man that gets you tough yards, can run linebackers over, carry on a couple of cornerbacks with him down the field to get you 2 or 3 extra yards, even though he does get banged up, and he does have a little move to him. James Conner is right now your best running back in Pittsburgh. You've been getting him for a deal. So, Mike McMahon, come on down and play the rolling roulette of free agency. Do you pay James Conner, and how much do you pay him to stay in Pittsburgh?
And
The
again,
wheel's spinning. The wheel's spinning.
I know.
Adrian Peterson is out there again next year.
No, you're not bringing in Adrian Peterson. Hey, Frank Gore, too?
Yeah.
To me,
Get both of them.
if you can get another guy and James Conner can be your third down back or your number 2 to the 1-2 punch. You look at a situation, the team they just lost to, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. If James Conner can be the Kareem Hunt when they're both healthy, the spell guy, Chubb's a little tired, get the other guy in there. The Kareem Hunt's a heck of a running back, and to me, he's ranked higher than James Conner. But if you can use him in that Kareem Hunt role, and they have another Nick Chubb, that's where I would like to see James Conner. Because he's gonna get banged up. He's not that first.
He's not 30 runs a game.
No.
Again, this guy, we're talking free agency.
I'd like to see him mixed in there 10 runs a game with, with maybe, 5 or 7 targets a game on checkdowns.
Yeah, because he has hands.
And so who's going to pay him? I don't think anyone's going to really come in and offer him a number 1 running back type of money.
No.
But, he could be paid in that mid-tier number 2 running back range. And I think the Steelers, it would be worth their while to pay that if they can get a number 1 guy that they believe in. Now, again, the Steelers have, they have Snell, they have
Snell doesn't
McFarland, they
send
have
Snell
Samuels. And I didn't even see any Samuels at the end. So
no.
It just depends on what they want to do at that position. And then also, is James Conner going to be able to do some special teams maybe? Is he bringing any value there? You can use him on some special teams type situations, maybe punt protector type thing, run down, cover some kicks. If he's playing that number 2 running back role, then you can kind of give him that little extra money, But if he's not going to do that, then you got to make the tough decision.
Here's an intangible with James Conner, and it counts for team. There is no I in team. The old saying goes, Mike, character and leadership. He has both of those things. If you want to go on a Super Bowl run next year, and I think this team can do it again, you want James Conner back there. If you use him right, you don't run him 30 times a game into the ground. He's not Walter Payton.
Yeah, get him 7 to 8 carries a game, 7 to 8 targets, get him on the special teams.
And he's a leader.
And he steps up and be a leader. He's got to be a little bit more of a vocal leader, too. That's the type
he's
of leader.
earned it now.
That's the leader they need in this team.
Right.
Him and a Cam Hayward.
Yep. Well, Cam might be heading into his last couple seasons too. All right, there's a lot of other guys out there right now, but those are the top tier guys, the emotional guys we wanted to talk about. I mean, you've got your punter, Jordan Berry. You got Chris Wormley. Trey Edmonds is already gone. Sean Davis, I love. He's a hitter. If you can get him back for another league minimum hit.
You don't want to pay the punter top money?
Well, punter, punters count, but Anyway, all right, we'll see what happens with the free agency and the draft. Nobody can count on that. Mike and I will be back next week, and we're going to talk about, who's going on in the playoffs after next week, because quite frankly, I'm just too cold. There's a really pretty lady running by.
Give me your picks.
It's a pretty lady running by, Mike. I'm picking hers. I love her.
Give me your picks.